Good morning, Ms. Deming. I read with great interest your article, A Missed Opportunity for Change. Before I get into that, though, it's how you started the article that really had me I was like, wow, you spoke about Father's Day and electing a woman to lead the United National Congress. Why did you start your article that way?
It's a very trivial kind of start of an article, but on Father's Day, we think of our men, the people who have framed the way we are, the people who continue to support us, and so on. And to me, Father's Day was an excellent opportunity to transform and move towards Rushton Parry's grouping, who, remember I had written earlier, telling him there's no way that he can try to transform without women. Mm-hmm. So on Father's Day, I said to myself, maybe they'll select Rushton's team. They didn't. They went after a woman's team. And that is what made me say, well, how come is it on Father's Day we select a woman over a man?
In the context of TNT, what should transformation be?
Transformation is to change your structure, systems, and processes. If we look at Trinidad at the moment, it would be very difficult to say that we're doing well. If you listen to all the economists, they tell you all about the GDP and so on, which I have an interest in, is our social development, our systems, our structures, our processes. I have tremendous interest in how do we make our people better? How do we ensure that you can walk through Trinidad and Tobago without being worried about crime? And those are the things I'm interested in. The systems, the structures, the processes. I'm interested in crime, and I'm interested in the development of the people. Because if your people are not strong and they don't have a clear idea of what they want, then we will continue to have the mediocrity that we have. And sometimes when I describe it as mediocrity, I even think that the word mediocrity is too good to describe what is happening.
Where does that mediocrity stem from?
The root of mediocrity has to do with the context in which you're operating. So the culture is what will determine mediocrity. And our culture is led by poor quality leaders. Leaders who have no difficulty breaking a traffic light because they have police with them. Now, when a young person sees someone break a traffic light, what they're learning is you could break a traffic light, go abroad to other countries. The politicians use the public transportation. So you don't see them giving themselves that opportunity. So it's always our leaders, our people who see themselves as I am better than you. What we have are people who get into politics for what they can get out of it, both what they can get financially, because most of them, you look at them before they got into politics, where they lived was a normal house and so on. You look at them now and you see that they're living in a multi-million-dollar. And you ask yourself, given the salaries that they get, how did they buy that?
But we've accepted that as a norm, Ms. Deming. It doesn't seem to be much of an issue anymore.
I have not accepted it, and I don't think I'm the only one. If we want to change this country, everybody has to start working harder so that we teach our younger people that you need to contribute in order for you to benefit. It can't be who you know. It can't be, I have a contact, therefore I get a contract.
Do you think that we have become so lost or no longer interested in what is taking place, that we are now accepting mediocrity and incompetence?
I don't think we're accepting mediocrity and incompetence as a population. And I keep focusing on our leaders. I think our leaders are accepting mediocrity and incompetence because most of our leaders are not interested in putting the best resources to deliver.
They get away with it. Why not feed it to the population if it is that they get away with it?
They get away with it, and that's where I keep pushing a needle into the population to say, listen, they can't get away with this. Let's transform our country. Let's change the way we do things. Let's ensure that we have respect for each other. There has to be a major transformation. There has to be something that changes this country in such a way that we all begin to say, well, all right, I know what our goal is. I know what our vision is. I know what is the strategy that we're going to use. I know what the action is that I am supposed to be contributing. Strategy strategy to action is important, but you can't get strategy to action if you don't have a vision.
Do you think we have to create that something ourselves?
I don't have the solution, but what I am very clear about is if you want to change your life, for instance, if you are overweight, you cannot continue to eat what you're eating, drink what you're drinking, and the weight will go away. You have to change your diet. You have to determine, okay, I will have a little less sugar, I will have a little less of that simple carbohydrates, I will go to more complex carbohydrates and so on. So you will then transform your body. This society cannot change if we continue the way we've been functioning over the last 14 years. The reason I talk about the last 14 years is that takes us back to when the People's Partnership came into power. And then it took us to 2015 when the PNM came back into power.
Generally speaking, the argument is now transformation is going to start with young people. We can no longer rely on the older generations. But do you think young people themselves are afraid to express their opinions and their thoughts?
That's an excellent question. It's not an either or. It's not going to be just 50 young people will turn up and transform. There has to be collaboration. And when I talk about collaboration, I'm not only talking about political collaboration. I'm talking about collaboration between the young and the old. What they need is people whom they can follow, people whom they can look at and say, well, listen, I don't agree with you, but here's my view. And we are able to talk about it and then say, well, okay, this is my view, that's your view. What is it that we can do to make things better? You know, and that approach to collaboration will make a difference. But it has to be an approach in which we respect each other. We look at it as, okay, what is the outcome that we want to get from this activity? If you're not focused on the outcome, and I may be a little bit repetitive, if you don't know where you want to go, then nothing you do makes a difference.
If you're taking a look at the last 9-10 years in particular, do you think that you would feel more proud if there was a change in government given what it is that we're currently being offered?
If there was a change and depending on the outcome, that would make me feel happy. I'm very proud of my country. Trinidad is a beautiful place. A week ago, I was running around the Queen's Park Savannah and I tripped and fell because there's a piece of steel projected up this was in front of the White Hall.
Very odd security measure in front of White Hall.
You know, and I fell and hurt my hip. While I was in Canada, I spent time looking at the pavements because of what I had just experienced. Now that, you may look at that as a very simple kind of, again, trivial example. But here's the issue with that. Whoever cut down the post that was there, nobody then went and supervised it and said, well, okay, for you to cut this down, you have to make sure that the entire pavement is flat. It can't be poking out. And that is an example of what happens in this country. People get something to do and they just do it. And nobody comes back and supervises it to say, well, okay, you've not completed this. And you look at all of our pavements and you see pieces of steel popping up that will impact disabled people, it will impact women who have children in a stroller, it will impact a walker, it will impact a runner.
I'll go one even better. You look at the roads and you wonder, oh look, piece of road missing.
In Toronto, I looked at the roads. They are doing construction. But when they're doing construction, the way it is done, you understand it. Systems, structures, and processes are what we need.
Do you think it would be accepted if there was a push to change the norm?
Yes, many years ago when we moved to seatbelts, in 3 months people wore seatbelts. So that's a simple example that people are willing to transform, they're willing to change if there are consequences. But if you feel that there are no consequences for anything you do, then you say, well, all right, no, it's okay, and no so and so, I could get through.
You said you love your country. I love my country as well. But do you think the more that you love your country, speaking about TNT, the more you become frustrated?
I have been trying to manage frustration for many years in this country. There are 2 ways I manage it. I drink a lot of water. That might sound as if, you know, what water has to do with it?
Somebody has been listening to soca.
I do that a lot. And I do a lot of physical exercise. And that helps me with my frustration. And I also am very structured in my days. So when there are days when, okay, I'm not listening to the radio, not reading the newspapers because I have to do X, Y, or Z. Because if you continue to just listen and be part of it, you'll be frustrated, and frustration is terrible. So you have to structure your day in such a way that you move away from them and their stupidness. And I mean, that's what I tell myself.
Okay, I hear you, but aren't you being a bit contradictory? We can't move away from the stupidness if we want to change.
You have to be in control of you. I'm running away for a couple hours. And if I can run away from for a couple hours and I'm not into all the foolishness that's happening, then I can relax and I can work on the things that I'm interested in as well. And then I jump back in. And I jump back in and see the headline on crime has not changed. Crime in this country has to do with systems, structures, and processes. What are the systems to prevent the guns from coming in? What have we done with the borders? Are we telling the population that in X year, X number of guns came in, but in this year it's less? We can't tell them that. We don't have the data. So crime continues. I moved to Diego Martin 20 years ago. And I would leave my house at 4:30 a.m. and go for a run. Recently, I wanted to do a long run. And I spent so much time saying to my husband, I'm not sure that I could do that, I'm a little worried. And I eventually did what I normally do these days, jump in your car, drive to the savannah, and then go for a run. Because I'm so afraid of the Diego Martin main road, a place where 20 years ago, I would run at 4:30 and not feel terrible.
When my parents would tell me that, when they were growing up, we used to leave our doors unlocked. I find it hard to believe that there's been such a drastic change in such a short period of time. And I often wonder, have I missed out on the best that Trinidad has to offer?
Maybe you have. In terms of my generation, you've missed out on the best. But every generation has their best. And your generation still has the opportunity to transform our country and experience the best. The best is contextual. I lived in Chaguanas for 18 years. When we sold the house, our biggest challenge in selling the house was finding the keys for the doors. Because when you're selling a house, you have to give the people the keys. But living in Chaguanas was so easy and it was comfortable that we didn't even have a problem with keys for the doors.
There seems to be a great lethargy and a lack of discipline.
There is a lack of discipline. I've not seen the transformation of the public service to one in which is customer-oriented, transform one in which people respect each other. That is the kind of thing that the government, whoever is in government, that's the kind of thing you have to do. Because the public service is a major employer. If you transform them in terms of deliverables, it will impact the rest of the society. There's another thing that I think we need to do. Our police are not structured. If our police service was more structured, that would impact the society. You see people breaking traffic lights. Why do they break traffic lights? There are no consequences. I see the police car parked by the corner and the policeman in his uniform lining up for doubles. How?
One policeman for one police car. Right?
And it's doubles he's going for. And you may be saying that I'm looking at little things, but those things bother me because if there's a system, a structure, and a process in which somebody knows exactly where that policeman is and what he's supposed to be doing, and there's a consequence, then he wouldn't do it.
Yeah, but do we need somebody behind us with a big stick all the time?
Right now, I think we do. We need structures, we need people, we need consequences.
So my final question to you is, you close your call by saying, let's come together to do what is necessary to transform our country. Our future depends on it. What is necessary to transform our country?
Collaboration. Political and social collaboration is absolutely necessary to transform this country. We have to stop this political party based on race, and we have to collaborate with each other. Look at our crime situation. The opposition and the government did not collaborate to come up with a crime plan. So when I talk about what needs to transform, it is collaboration, both politically and socially.
What should future leadership look like in TNT?
We need more women in leadership, but they're not there. Is it that they don't want to do it, or is it that a lot of them still feel that, you have to offer it to me, I'm not going to ask you for it? So we need to transform by having more equity. We need to transform by having more diversity. And we need to transform by having more inclusiveness of the different things in our society.
Mr. Meng, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning.